To all who come, welcome. Disney is a time machine that takes us back, connects us together, and shows us that not even wishing upon a star ever gets old. Now come sit with your friends Jonelle, Sean, and Megan as we deep dive into the heart of Disney.
Nova has been very more present in our episodes now.
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
But I think that's just because he really likes it when the baby's down for a sleep, because then he can come out and be with us.
Yes.
That is valid.
Welcome back, friends, to Friends of Disney.
And say happy birthday to Jonelle.
Everyone, the bit master of business is 26 years old today.
Congratulations.
To be clear, that's today us recording, not today as in when this releases.
Yeah, so when you watch this, I will have already been 26 for a while.
However, when you watch it, it'll be around the time of Chinese New Year. So happy Chinese New Year.
Interesting enough, at the company I work for, we recently did a company overview together, company meeting, and we like to do this every quarter so that way we're going over with everyone what our objectives are, which is essentially where we're trying to progress as a team. And this year, because we do relationships with those overseas in China, it is the year of the horse, but more specifically, it is the fire horse dragon, which comes only once every
Horse dragon, just horse.
horse, sorry, not I'm year of the dragon, so my head wants it to be a dragon, but it's the year of the fire horse. And the year of the fire horse only comes once every 60 years from what I was told.
It's roughly around the same thing because they cycle between 5 elements. So fire, earth, water, air, and I think metal, gold or whatever.
Yeah, because we were born in the year of the metal dragon.
I don't know.
What year were you born in?
1999.
Oh, you're the rabbit.
Yeah, that one.
I'm a Ouija.
But
Fruits basket. Yay.
But yeah, so it takes a while for a pairing, the same pairing of the element with the animal, because they're not clear cycles. 12 zodiac animals and then 5 elements. So it every 60 years for every pairing, pretty much.
Yeah. Just this year happens to be the year of the fire horse, which the fire horse that comes around is very rare when it does. And it is supposed to bring year of change and basically passion of change. So this is a time to be a knight in shining armor and not be afraid of things and to have fire and passion.
I think this is super interesting that your company brings that up. For the company I work for, we don't celebrate any holiday at all.
See, it's going to be dead for us for business-wise for 2 months because China is obviously celebrating this, and just how we take off national holidays, they take a whole month off.
Good for them.
Oh.
Celebrate.
I wish we could do that.
I know. I'm like, man, a whole month off, that sounds great.
See, I find it funny because when we first talked about starting the podcast, having an episode on Raya and the Last Dragon was one of the first ideas we had to do around Chinese New Year.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we were smart enough to do it when the year we launched the podcast 2 years ago, because that was the year of the dragon.
I know. And what's so funny is we're born year of the dragon, so it could have also been a great birthday episode with that as well.
Well, and the baby's a year of the dragon too.
That's great.
So can I tell you a small but unintentional tradition that somehow exists in my family? Don't give me the eye roll. I know you know this.
I didn't say
If you
anything.
Megan gave a giant eye roll. My dad was born in 1964, which was the year of the dragon. Me, I'm a year of the dragon. The baby is a year of the dragon.
Okay, so this is so funny.
And we're all
because
firstborns.
This is so funny because my grandpa is year of the dragon. My mom is year of the dragon. I'm year of the dragon. And let me double check Annelle's year because she was 2012. So Annelle is year of the dragon too. And what's so funny is our year is the metal dragon, which I've been wanting to get a metal dragon tattoo, knowing that it's the metal dragon now. So I want to find a tattoo artist who works on like tattooing metalistic looking things.
I think we need to shift and just talk about the dragon in question, which is Sisu.
I love Sisu.
Okay. You love the movie, I think, the most out of the three of us, so you go.
Look, the ending, like Raya, there's a lot of hard decisions that are having to be made from the dragons. And I've really been, when I watch Raya, it makes me think of this world in a much more holistic view of the earth has its ecosystem and we live within the ecosystem. And the overarching goal is unity. And here we have humans obviously disrupting that unity. And Earth's last hope was reliant on a dragon.
I was also thinking about our world when watching the movie and how they talked about like, sorry, it's just really comfy back there.
It was the chord I was going to use.
Yeah, we could probably move that forward a little bit.
But the whole like thing that Shizu is talking about is like we need to trust each other and like extend that trust first in order for people to like trust us back. And
this goes into game theory, which is very interesting because in game theory,
with not Dapper Mr. Tom or Matt Pat, but like the actual like game theory, which is like
yes, because we go into this in executive leadership that there's two main points of worldview that people generally tend to think about the world in a sense is the sense of it's a game or it's survival. And we have kind of curated a culture that relies a lot on game theory. And game theory is very simple to its core, but if you are a person who has a hard time building trust and you put up walls for that trust to encounter, the possibility of you getting trust with someone else who is going to be more likely trustful, you two, like, you're going to say no to the trust. They're going to trust you. And so already you're going to be advantage of the relationship. But then if this person becomes vulnerable again and you choose to be vulnerable again with them because they showed the trust again, then you're more likely to be vulnerable with them, creating a stronger sense of attachment. And the more times you create a like match, the more likely you are to essentially gain more in wealth or whatever you are trying to gain of prosperity. Because in the game theory, if you choose to cooperate, majority out of the time, you are going to win no matter what. Those who choose to steal, lie, manipulate generally are either very wealthy or very poor because they are not trusting one another. So we all play it with like how we learned about this is we played a very simple game with each other. And the reason why I'm saying like truth and like things like that is because we took the foundation of this and we broke it down very simple with a deck of cards. And you essentially had to play poker with the person next to you, just a very simplified version of poker of like high card or low card. And then however many points you got, like you would get it to be the winner of this. And majority of the time, the people who ended up winning the game were those who were strategically trying to take advantage of people or those who had continuously made connection together as trustworthy friends and every time said yes to one another, even though the points were lower, because they did it every single time, the points had multiplied. But those who had manipulated, they would go to the point where they trust him a little bit and they gain enough of those points, turn their back around, and steal all the points. So that's how they succeed.
I followed that, by the way.
I'm trying to keep up, but
Megan, please simplify my brain bar.
I get what you're trying to I just don't want to.
I have brain barf and I need to stop.
Like, the more you're explaining, the more convoluted it's going to get because you're going to try and explain all of it. But I think we get the gist.
TLDR, life is a game to some people, and it's about trust versus not trust.
Yes.
Is how well you will like win said game. Jonel's version was just a lot more long and eloquent than that.
Yes, because we did a lot of deep theory analysis into this, but then there is also the second part of we looked at Columbus, and we were looking in the footsteps of if you were the Native American.
Oof. Oof.
And we looked at 3 different worldviews, and it really kind of changed my perspective on something. But like sometimes if you really just change the lens of how someone is looking at the situation, it either makes it look far worse or a little more, like, depending on which point of view you're looking at, it makes the situation look far worse or far better.
Oh my gosh, yeah. In Wicked 2, Jeff Goldblum's character, the wizard, makes this comment, like, during the song It's Wonderful, where he's like, it's the person telling the story who changes, like, the point, like, how the story is told. And when it's told by the winner, everyone else looks worse than it actually, like,
Than it actually was.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
I think about this and just like how I have my conversations with people, because in this movie you see Sisu, and every time she comes up to someone, she's like, I need to give you a gift of offering, or I need, like, Sisu's a very person who believes in that trust theory of every time I hand out trust, like, that should signal trust back. And then she's finding out, like, that's not the case of this world. And she's understanding the lessons from her brothers and sisters that helped them protect themselves. And she's realizing, like, this world has a far much greater play than what I had made it out to be. And in order for there to be unison, unfortunately, we need to fall.
I have a couple things I'd like to respond from what you were saying. One on like the perspectives thing. All I can think about is this one thing I remember my dad telling me, because my dad was in the Navy, and he would always, like most people, his whole, like, he really gets intrigued by like World War II stuff, as most people do.
Where a lot of people are
like-
very vocal about.
Please don't say you're gonna do the, like, how could you forgive Hitler speech.
No.
Okay.
No, it's about Pearl Harbor. And
Oh.
so like he was like talking about how like, because he did most of his like stuff in like
Basic.
Asian kind areas, like he
His-
was Hong
yeah.
Kong, Singapore, those places.
Yeah.
And so he always talked about how like you go to Pearl Harbor and stuff and see like the museum or whatever from like the attack or whatever, and you like really hate Japan for it. And then you go to Hiroshima.
And then you
where
really
they
hate-
and then you really hate the US.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, if you're in a science class, you really hate the US too for that, because of what happens with nuclear damage.
But it's my whole thing was like, when it comes to Sisu and her whole thing of like you need to give a gift, I have a hard time seeing that as a trust thing. I know it's a culture thing, but to me the culture thing is around respect. Like, because China and most Asian countries still live in that collectivistic honor and shame type of like culture. And so when you're going to meet someone and you go like show a gift, it's you one showing honor to the place that you're visiting or person you're seeing, but also it's like you not shaming your own country by making them appear as disrespectful. So I find it weird showing that I went the route of trust, because I feel like I'm going to start heading towards devil's advocate lane. I want to like this movie, but I feel like the message on trust overshadowed the entire movie, and they focused more on making that so clear.
I mean, I think trust is easier for kids to grasp. And I think with Raya, what they were trying to do was trying to instill, like, I hate to put it, but Disney does try to instill stuff into children because children are going to take key concepts from this.
It's not even just like children. Like we learned back in elementary school, what's the theme of the book?
We were children.
Yes. But I'm saying, like, we're taught, like, no matter what, no matter the book, no matter the movie,
No matter
no matter the media, there's a theme.
But see, as adults, we can sit here and talk about how it's much deeper and related into culture and silent nonverbal cues and verbal cues with the movie. Because I mean, that's what every content creator essentially does. And this is one of the reasons why I like Raya, is because you see a world where a lot of manipulation and a lot of hurtful tactics come into play. Yes, for kids, it's overarching with trust, but like when I'm watching this movie, I'm never looking at that. I am looking at Sisu's heart at play. I just find it very funny too, because I feel like I relate to Sisu just because she's playful and loving and very strong, passion-willed with her heart.
When we watched it, 'cause we watched it earlier today, we, like, at the beginning, like, I won't lie, I was, like, pretty drawn in. I was like, okay, I like the premise. And then it very quickly lost me because there were certain objective things that took me away from the story.
Yeah, I will admit, like, getting the pieces of the dragon, there are certain things, like, within that timeline that I definitely draw away from in the movie. But this is why I'm saying, like, I don't pay attention to those parts of the movie, because those were things that I could overlook and just kinda skip by.
And I'll let you go. My thing is, I couldn't overlook them because a good movie, I shouldn't have to notice them, is how I personally view it. But you can go, Megan.
So Raya and the Last Dragon came out at 2021. Around this time, I stopped watching new Disney releases. So like Luca, I didn't watch. And like a bunch of like movies that were coming out, I didn't watch. One, because I was in the thick of like my own life. What was happening in my own personal life was like too chaotic to notice what was happening in Disney. And I feel like a lot of the movies that came out in like 2020, 2021, 2022, like across the board, people had something to say and they focused their voices on what they wanted. So Raya and the Last Dragon really, when it came out, I remember people being like, it feels incomplete,
It is very fair. I feel like the movie is not finished.
it feels incomplete, and like it feels like it's throwing the message of truth down your throat instead of and like trust down your throat. And I feel like taking a step back and watching this years later, where we're no longer in like the chokehold of COVID, what I'm imagining happened was during 2020 and 2021, people were like, the beautiful creatives at Disney were like, we need people to trust each other more and we need to make a story about that. But they had limited ways they could make it. So yeah, the story is incomplete in some ways because they couldn't have made Raya and the Last Dragon like they have made any other movie.
See, and I feel like this is where we're hitting a downfall, is we have created a society that has so many limits and restrictions to everything that we are, that you don't have a voice anymore.
True.
And
Where only very specific people have voices.
yeah,
You have to be screaming and loud and mean for those voices to be heard.
And we created a victim culture. I hate to say it, but sorry, we created a victim culture. Like, I'm going back to the gift giving. This is just because it's a personal reflection of my birthday, but obviously today is my birthday. I'm 26 years old. You're fine. Literally, you are okay. My grandmother forgot to call me, so I called her today to make sure that she was doing okay, just because I know she has dementia. She normally calls me on my birthday every year. But I also knew that I was going to be seeing her this upcoming weekend. And so I'm like, maybe she's just waiting till the weekend to say my birthday. Essentially, though, every gift that everyone had given me, which I got Care Bear headphones, I got a remote dog that can run around and yip and things like that. And then my mom wrote down a whole bunch of money saving techniques that she has learned throughout the years and what story or like what life situation had occurred to why she learned that.
Okay, that's really sweet.
And then she got me like little things to instill the same tactic into my life if I wanted to.
That's good.
Like, one is a pantyhose that you can put your soap bars into, so that way, you know, you can just like scrub or whatever. And then just things like that. But like, I really do appreciate those things because it's much easier for me to understand why someone was thinking that way. And it makes me appreciate them a lot more. So, like today, I've spent a lot of time looking at those who have really contacted me and really trying to find ways to appreciate them for the way that they chose to contact me and like to wish me well on my birthday. And then that the people that I cared about, I made sure that I went out of my way to let them know, like, you know, are you okay? Because you are still a person that I care for in my life, and here is why. But it's gotten to this point where I mean, we obviously know I've been dealing with now finally being diagnosed with AD, uh, and just like having a whole bunch of different diagnoses and just different journeys of that. But it's coming down to where I'm ready to just live life how I think life was really meant to be, which is it's great to be thinking about the future, but I think we've been thinking about the future too much, that we need to focus on the present. And
Present. Because gift.
yeah,
Sorry.
I think life is meant to be much more simpler
Mm.
than we've been trying to create it to be.
Mm-hmm.
How this movie felt incomplete. I think part of the issue too comes with the fact that there's too much in this movie to be contained in one movie.
Exactly. Which is why, like, I think the gift part that I had talked about could have been like a whole section of that movie of just kind of around how, like, this culture, because gift giving is a cultural thing.
Yes. Because I hate to say it, but I think you guys will agree with me when I say it. The story that this movie tries to tell is a very classic kind of story, but I think the best representation of it is Avatar, The Last Airbender. Because the opening of Avatar says, the four nations lived in harmony until the Fire Nation attacked, which obviously, like, there's not one nation.
Kumandra.
They're all divided. They're in 5 different regions of it. The whole naming scheme of, so, like, with those regions, I won't lie, bothers me.
I think it's cool.
I get why they did it, but at the same time, I'm like, really? You couldn't come up with anything better than Tail?
They created classic tropes for this movie,
Yes.
but what they failed to do was they rushed the movie.
They rushed it badly, and it's something that Disney should really consider doing.
Disney's been rushing a lot of their
Not
movies.
just rushing, they try to keep everything compact. There's never truly been a single story that goes into more than one movie.
Yeah.
And they really need to consider doing it, because if they were to have tried to do that with this, would have been 10 times better.
But they have to. This is where I think the fall of branding is really going to come. And we're going to start seeing some downfalls of these major corporations. Unfortunately, I don't think Walmart's going to be one of them, but I think we're going to start seeing downfall of major corporations like this because they have built their own throne of such branding that they now have to follow their own rules that they played for other people, and the other people are them. And they're falling on themselves. They have created their own castle that's burning down.
Okay.
I think Disney Entertainment Films, like animated studios, is creating its own downfall. Different aspects of Disney, I think they could rebrand themselves.
The Disney parks are doing fine.
Yeah.
Okay, this is something I've been thinking about personally, is when I see a movie or read a book or find some media that I really love, there's a part of me, I've been thinking about this. The best thing about watching a TV show, watching a movie, reading a book is the stuff that I think about after it ends, right? I love Wicked, and I love being in my car and singing to Popular. I've been reading this book series, listening to this book series because of like A Court of Thorns and Roses. I'm like on the 3rd book now. I started it last week. I'm on the 3rd book. Please help. And I love thinking about the characters and the way they interact with each other. And so we watched like Avalon.
Avalon High.
And like
I liked that movie.
that movie's great. And so like thinking about like what happens after the movie ends. And so when watching this movie, I was thinking, how much of the movie can it be left up to like fans? Like, how much of the movie needs to be like explicitly told, and how much of it needs to like be like things that we think about after? Because my favorite thing about like thinking about the Wicked movie is thinking about the little moments that happen in between the major scenes. And I feel like where Raya really falls short is they talk about like these different tribes. So the dad and Raya, when Raya is little, the dad asks her, like, what are the different tribes about? And so she goes through each one and then says what she thinks of them. And then he goes, well, that's what you think. But, well, and then he goes, well, everyone thinks we are prosperous because we are the heart. And so the whole point that they set up is like, no, you will learn that each one of those places that you named is actually different than what you think. And so it's like the point of Chekhov's gun, right? There's like this play where someone puts a gun in the middle. And so at some point, the gun has to go off. And so the gun here is not actually a gun, but it's like we're supposed to learn about each of these places. And I feel like the reason why this movie feels incomplete is because we don't actually make ourselves flip that narrative that she sets in the beginning.
And what's worse is like the darkness, the void that really ruins everything.
The Droon.
Yeah, the Droon is the hidden aspect that is the gun.
Yeah.
Well, and like, there's like, again, like the movie itself is also rushed. Like we have like the prelude, which like the prologue part of it was done amazing.
Oh, yeah, no.
But right after she's in tail, finds Sisu, immediately gets the first gem, immediately gets her right.
Exactly.
Like,
And this is the part of the movie I hate, is that rushed part. And I only like the prelude in the ending.
The ending I want to like a little bit more.
The ending could be executed more. Don't get me wrong.
I said it wasn't enough build up.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. It could have been done better. But I just like how Raya and Sisu and Tiku went to go about handling the situation of, I am coming with my own inner peace of everything around me because I have chosen myself and I am fighting for myself now at this point.
You know what this movie reminds me of? The second or third Kung Fu Panda movie, where Po learns he's adopted, learns that like his family was like murdered by like the goose. I think it's the second one. And he has like that whole scene with like the raindrop and learning about like inner peace that way. and it's a beautiful scene. And I think Raya is trying to do that, where it's trying to be like,
It wants to be that.
it wants to be that, and
But Disney's trying to rush it because they're now going to create, let's admit it, this is how Disney is operating because this is how business operates. And this is what truly frustrates me around branding is a gear on its own. It is its own system. So everything is a curated system that is continuously made. So there's going to be another Raya because they're using Raya as a licensing character because that is a new asset. So now they have to create another Raya alternative, which would be like a Raya show or another Raya movie. And then you get the finished parts of the story, but wait, you have to keep going to part 2, part 3. And it's getting to the point now where they keep this brand going on for like what, 4 years?
It's the Frozen and Lion King effect.
Yes.
okay, sorry. This is also something I've been thinking about because recently we, as in the three of us, have even been like, when Disney produces new things, we're like, we don't like it. Like how I mentioned, like I watched the first 20 minutes of Luca and was so bored. I couldn't get into it.
They
But-
only do what's enough for advertising and marketing, and they make that flawless. They spend so much money on getting that part of the film flawless.
And then they have like these okay pieces of new things. And then they throw out remakes, live actions of old things, and they throw it out there and we're like, this sucks.
I think Disney has the Gen Z millennial sickness of overthinking. Because earlier today, we showed the baby Tangled. And I look over at Megan and I'm like, did you ever realize that was the last simple Disney princess romance love story that everyone most famously knows Disney for? And I'm looking at like Tangled and like I've shown Lynn like or showed the baby like a couple other movies. Like I've shown them Little Mermaid,
The Aristocats.
Aristocats, Aladdin. And I'm like, the stories are so much simpler. They're so simple. They have a lot of layers still, but they're simple. And Disney I think that's one of Disney's downfalls. If you look at their recent films, they're complex as all heck. Or they overthink stuff. Like, let's take the trust thing that we were talking earlier. They shove that down your throat in this movie.
Which is why I spent so long trying to explain the game theory.
But Aladdin is the same message. Because Jasmine has to learn to trust Aladdin. And he lies to her and stuff. It's the same message. It's not shoved down your throat. It's a simple story. You see the simple growth. Aladdin's point of view is very clear, and you can see his own like character wrestling with it. It's a much simple story compared to this.
What's worse is we've curated a society where everyone needs their voice to feel heard and mattered. So what entertainers are trying to do is put everyone's voice in the movie and show so that way no one feels left out. But the thing is, we can't get everyone's voice in because I think this is the part of Raya that I really like is we are that society. We want unison. We used to be the United States of America. We are now 50 states in the United States.
We're 50 states of America instead of the
United
50,
States.
Yeah.
We're not very united anymore.
Exactly. And so, like, Raya, I feel like, is an outcry for help.
One, it's interesting because
But it got rushed.
but also to Megan's point earlier of like the time it got released, 2020, 2021,
even 2022.
like we all know these things take a long time to be made. which means this movie was greenlit years prior. And what was the big thing of even 4 years prior?
Barack Obama, Trump, and
Trump's first election, where everything started to go to hell. And
Depending on who you ask.
so, yeah, you're not wrong. And so,
and everything was also, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it though, but like everything had to be about Black culture
there became,
because we had the George Floyd situation.
that was in 2020. So the movie was already about
I feel like we
race.
had other
Not as much, but once the George Floyd incident in 2020 happened, it definitely went up at an exponential rate.
I also want to make an argument that I feel like, don't get me wrong, the George Floyd thing was awful, and my heart still breaks thinking about it. But if it was in a normal year, I feel like people would have like moved on faster, because 2020, 2021 were years where so very little things happened because we were all forced inside. When like something big happens, it's like lingered for a long time. I think it's like the equivalent of before the internet hit, where like 9/11 was a thing, and it like that presence lingered for a while because
Yeah.
the world wasn't.
The activity level was so low that by the time something actually happened, it looked like a giant event.
And we've made it such a thing now to where everyone's voices need to be heard because everyone that matters. But we don't have, and this is where the market comes in, of there's a big demand for everyone wants to be heard. But what it's really just is calling is, we need to make friends, people. We need to start talking, people. We're lonely mother fluffer.
And listening. I think the other big one is like people are shouting and screaming, and we need to be the ones to be like, there was something someone told me.
Stop your temper tantrum.
That too. No, something that someone said to me in 2020 that I think about all the time is, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. That means you should listen more than you talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that a lot. And in my job, that's nearly impossible because I work with little children who I'm like, I constantly have to ask them questions and tell them to do things. But like in adult conversations, I try to listen more than I talk.
Yeah, it's Disney needs to take the message from Sisu and learn to trust themselves. They're
trusting the system they've built for themselves, but that system, it needs to change.
The thing is,
they need to build a new one.
Megan will see where I'm going with it, because me and Megan
have seen
me. It comes to no surprise, me and Megan have done way too much research into this company on a creative standpoint, whether it's the parks, like even like shows, like they literally have a show on Disney Plus called Behind the Attraction. Like, we love to learn about the history.
Yeah.
And I think
we're huge park enthusiasts. Yeah.
Huge park enthusiasts, huge Disney enthusiasts, if you haven't tell from a pod. But I forever think about, the question like a lot of Christians ask, where it's like, what would Jesus do? I remember this one question.
What would an Imagineer do?
During the second episode of the Imagineering story, after Walt passed, and it was, what would Walt do? And I feel like Disney forever is always in this state of, what would work? Like, they have no sense of trust in themselves. And that existed really strongly back then after Walt passed, because they were literally like, our giant main guy that gave us everything is gone, so what do we do?
I feel like we're seeing the telephone effect of Disney now, where the message of Walt has gone through several generations, because Walt's dead.
He's been dead for a while.
Walt's dead. And they've had different changes of back and forth for their CEO. And the messages have just gone back and forth since the death of Disney. And they're trying to instill Walt's honor and keep it within the company. But they've lost, I'm sorry, but Disney has lost all sight of who original Walt was now.
And we're not saying Walt was like this perfect saint of a person.
No.
Because they're like all of us who are flawed individual human beings. So Walt's whole thing was like bringing
Joy, imagination,
Yeah.
and creativity.
Well, and not just that, his whole thing was very family centered. Like the reason the Disney parks even exist was because he was at a merry-go-round with his kids and he wasn't able to go on the merry-go-round with his kids. So he wanted to create a space for families to celebrate with their kids.
for parents and kids.
Disney,
Yes.
and Disney, I remember like this one quote, like Disney movies are not meant for kids. They're not meant for adults. They're meant for everyone. And like I forever get endlessly inspired by Walt whenever I hear him talk. Megan can tell you this is a very true fact.
Well, if the message is for everyone, sorry, but just gonna say this real quick, like, and you're an Imagineer, you're like, who's everyone? And you look at all these political things going on. Everyone is every stupid little voice you hear.
And I think it really has to get boiled back down to like, you can't make these things that complex. Simple stories, simple themes that, like, again, the princess movies that we all know. There's no part of them that don't resonate with someone because we've all been in that situation where we may have had to tell a lie, where we may have had to like throw out trust for someone, do something scary.
Okay, I'm
Lose a
just
parent.
thinking of this, but I really like Inside Out now because understanding, yes, it has full potential for Lion King, Frozen, franchisement effect because of the fact there are many stages in someone's life. So when you are entering the teen, you're discovering a new phase. And now that I'm 26, we're going through different phases of who we are ourselves and who we're going to be for the rest of our lives, essentially.
Yeah.
And then in your 30s, you go into how am I going to sustain what I want for the rest of my life? And then you enter your 40s, and it's just like a reevaluation of sustainment. You enter your 40s, and it's how to prosper and keep that sustainment and making sure that you're instilling your boundaries so that way your kids and whatever they're doing isn't going to disrupt what you set in your 20s. And as you keep aging, we're all going through different stages of life with different lenses. And I often think back now of like, what would have done as a teen? And I'm looking back and I'm like, wow, my lens didn't even think about economics sometimes or didn't think about these things. And what was so funny is I was so much better off financially as a teen than I am now because of the fact that credit hadn't even been introduced to me at that point.
Credit's evil.
Yeah. Guys,
Just
credit
like the
sucks.
movie said.
But the one other thing with the movie, because I know we're hitting that point to like wrap up. We talked about like the story and how it got rushed. When they got to Spine, I think one was the best part of the movie in terms of the middle part, middle section of the movie, but also did not hold the weight it should have had because it should have had the same weight. Not weight as in like waiting for something, but like intensity that in Mulan, when they get to the end of A Girl Worth Fighting For.
And this is why I was disappointed in Raya, because it didn't have the Mulan effect.
Thank you. Thank you. Because that moment should have had the exact same intensity of when they get to that battlefield
And the doll.
and you see the doll and the intensity was you knew what happened. It didn't even have to be said. You knew what happened. And Spine should have had the same effect. We got a little bit with the character from Spine that joined the team. We got a little bit of it. It should have had 10 times more weight.
Okay, I have some thoughts. Okay, I want to go back to the moral thing real quick.
This movie, there's so much to unpack, though. And that's what I don't like about it.
Exactly.
I feel like, okay, I have thoughts because Disney recently is like trying to include more voices. And while watching this movie, they started saying a bunch of words that I didn't know. So I Googled it and I love that. I love when films that are like English add different words from different languages and I get to Google it. I love it in K-pop. Demon Hunters, I love it. Here, I learned that they made a whole new word that was literally just to be like an insult. They created that. They looked up a bunch of different languages and was like, we're going to make a word that doesn't actually exist to be an insult. And I was like, that's brilliant.
Leave it to Disney to create something like out of thin air, and it's an insult.
And it's like, and it's inspired by like Vietnamese. I'm like, I love that we're, because people are always like it was all about the white girls and the white guys for a long time. And now that love is being spread around and I'm so happy for that. But if there was in my head a big battle between like Hans Christian Andersen and Lewis Carroll, the guy who wrote a bunch of fairy tales and the guy who wrote Alice in Wonderland. The guy who wrote Alice in Wonderland was like, I don't know, like morals don't have to be in stories to make it good. Because literally he wrote Alice in Wonderland, which is literally fictional nonsense. Nothing in Alice in Wonderland makes sense for a reason.
It's okay for a story to be rude.
It's okay for a story to be rude. Maybe not Disney stories,
But like,
but it's okay for
if you think of how some of the Disney movies started, they start off of old fairy tales that were in the non-public domain, which were far more gruesome.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But also with that, though, Disney also embraced a dark side with them. Because again, you had Maleficent, which cursed Aurora to death as a baby.
But this is old Disney, and now we have new Disney.
Which is much more sanitized. But
I like that description, sanitized.
I just
don't feel like they're Disney, as much as they want to be inspiring, they're not. Because they're following the curated people. They are giving the people what the people are yelling for. And then we're like, we're not happy. We're not happy. And they're like, we're giving you what you ask for. What do you mean you're not happy?
Yeah.
We're never going to be satisfied, though. That's the thing.
I think part of the reason that we're not satisfied, we'll never be satisfied, is because
we created a culture of it.
I mean, that, and I feel like someone once told me that you can always tell when someone is being genuine to you. You don't always know when someone's lying, but you always know when someone is being genuine. Disney's movies recently don't feel genuine. I can tell there's like some love put into it, like the character designs. Great. Some of the background art, fantastic. But like, it doesn't feel like when I watch Tangled and I can, like, the look that Eugene gives, like, Rapunzel is like legit something that Sean would do to me. Like,
what's funny is Phineas and Ferb is coming back, and Phineas and Ferb is like one of the most genuine things I feel from Disney that's left.
Yes.
Is because the Phineas and Ferb team is still so genuine.
Yes.
I watched a behind the scene for the Phineas and Ferb, and it made me fall in love again because they were doing an episode with the Try Guys because the Try Guys had a character that was on Phineas and Ferb. And so they got to go and interview the team, and the team is like, we just have a whole bunch of people act out many different voices during an interview, and we just try and look at which voice we think we have in here is going to match what we want to be. Like, they're listening to themselves, and they are taking the people around them that show their point of view. Not what the people want, their point of view.
And that's part of why, like I said earlier, like Disney needs to learn to trust themselves. They're putting their trust in what's outside of them. They're like, this is what they want, so we'll give them what they want.
But also going back to what you were saying, Phineas and Ferb is one of the most simple TV shows of all time. 2 boys, summer vacation, shenanigans.
But a spy paid platypus.
Yes.
And the third, because there's always 3 things that happen. The boys create something new, the sister's trying to bust the brothers, and the platypus is doing its Doofenshmirtz my child now coming.
And
Period platypus.
it's so formulaic. You know exactly what's going to happen when you walk into a Phineas and Ferb episode. But we stay because we're addicted to the genuineness of Dan Povenmire and Swampy Marsh and all, like, I follow most of the voice actors on Instagram, and every time they're like, there's a new Phineas and Ferb thing coming out, I celebrate.
And like to go back with your point of like genuineness too, like I think we talked about it with the Snow White episode last year, that god awful movie.
I still want my 2 hours back.
You can tell when an actor likes the role they are playing. You can tell when they are having fun. And we said it with
And our actors, I hate to say it, but they're angry.
Yeah.
They're angry.
Our actors have angry voices. And I mean, I sound like the angry person right now, but because we all want to yell.
Well, not to mention, I think I notice a theme when we talk about the more recent movies. Snow White, now Raya. I can think of a few others that we've like recently had discussions about that are newer releases from the last 6 years, and we're always saying the exact same things that no one is willing to articulately say to help people understand. Because we hear the arguments all the time. Disney's movies sucking. Like, it's all over social media how angry the fans are. But no one can articulate it.
And okay, so this is so funny because as much as I hate Taylor Swift, and we know I hate Taylor, like I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan.
Unless she's with Post Malone, apparently.
Which is hilarious because when I go to Janelle's house, Taylor Swift is almost always playing.
Yeah,
Because
your
the baby
baby
likes it.
falls asleep to it so well. But I'm just not a fan of her music. And she released her 6-series documentary series on Disney. It's true though. I respect it so much for her saying this because this is the game that Disney is playing in. Good views are better than no views. Views are better than no views. And because when she's talking about how she needs her music to be seen by as many people, regardless of what it is, that is the business world. And I'm going into sales, and we know this. And the rule of sales is get the message out to as many people as possible. And I had a meeting today about this, and it was like, I want to do sales, but I want to be genuine and I want to be authentic because I don't want to come to families saying, hey, come purchase a life insurance from me because I also need help with income. But like instead it's rather I genuinely do believe in these products. I have been taking a massive loss on my time for the moment to make sure that I'm instilling places to help keep you in a better financial place because I care about families and I care about their financial well-being and I care about their future.
I'm sorry. I just had an epiphany.
Yes.
I love it when that happens.
Okay, so there's this thing called book talk.
Yes, I know about book talk.
So for those of you who don't know what book talk is, there's this thing called TikTok.
Are you realizing all your books you're reading are because of book talk?
I ironically got into it not because of TikTok, but I was hearing something the other day from a creator, I don't know, and they were talking about how recently they've been reading the books that the book talkers are like, this is so good. And they're like, I don't know what happened to writers recently, but all these books are the same. And they were talking about how in the past, like 3 years, all the books look the same. And they were like, I Googled an author that I saw like publishing, and they like every year have sold like at least not sold, but like have written like 2 books. And they're like, we're rushing the creative process so we can get more output into the world, which means that what we do have is sloppy. And not unlike the sloppy joes where it's like, this is sloppy and gross and wonderful, but like in the we as a society are not patient enough for the art that we love to take like a good amount of time to make. Like one of my favorite artists is Stray Kids, and they produced too many albums this year. Too many. And the fan base is like, no, we are happy if you take a half-year break. Because if you rapidly produce movies, TV shows, books, music, then all of the goodness is stripped from it.
And this is what I appreciated so much about Taylor Swift is she knows she runs in a business world. She knows her game is business. And so she knows that she has to create systems for every little thing that she's done. So she's just like, when I create a performance, I am creating a show. Like I am spending the money to all these people because I am creating jobs for them. But she's creating a story because she is the envisioner. And this is what an MBA and all business degrees try to teach is that you are the painter of these systems, and what you are doing is moving the gears to make them run again. And it's just like you are the painter, but of people's lives.
I think so. I'm going to go a little bit meta because I am the editor of our podcast.
Yeah.
I do all the editing. And to speak not only as a musician, but also as the person who does take the time to edit our episodes, and thinking about how really toxic internet has gotten around the creative process, honestly infuriates me. Because, like,
people make it easier than what it actually is.
The words might be the right words. You want to make, like, when I edit these episodes, I try to make it, I want it to look good. I don't want it to be crappy. If you were to look at our episodes from when we first started 2 years ago, our Snow White episode, quality-wise, like, actual video quality is crappy. Lighting is meh. We don't even have our microphones yet. But given our means at the time, it's what we had.
But see, this is what I like about it.
Not done yet. Not done yet. It doesn't I don't do much to edit our episodes right now. I try to make them as high quality as I can. We record in one cut. I edit the beginning, I edit the end, I upload. I make sure sound's okay, I make sure the video's okay. Do I have ways I could upgrade it? Yes, but that's not within our means. But if I had to think about, if I say we had to like get what we're recording out in 3 days because that's the only way to survive because in a creative industry anymore because of the demand of the internet and how honestly these algorithms for the different platforms work, because TikTok has their algorithm, YouTube has their algorithm, Instagram has theirs. I would not survive as an editor to begin with. Like, it's already so simple for us as a podcast, and for me to think about trying to get it done in a couple days, it would be no thumbnails.
It's hard.
It's ridiculously hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so to think about that,
because our lives are already so busy.
and to think that creators, honestly, I'm going to say it is going to be aggressive, the fact that they're losing their own integrity to put the business before the product, I'll say it, it's shameful. As an artist, as a creator, I'll say it as an artist. It's your job to be perfect. Like when I said during the Monsters University episode, a musician or a music major is a major imperfection because you can't have the wrong notes. You can't rush practicing. The performance, yeah, that's a deadline. That means you need to schedule your time in advance. You can't sit here and schedule a performance in 2 days with all brand new music without time to practice. That's irresponsible, that's shameful, and you have no integrity in that performance at all.
Or being a doctor. Could you imagine? Like, you walk into, like,
Your surgery.
and it's like heart surgery, and the doctor's like, I procrastinated. Yeah.
I didn't read the patient's case. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like, are we cutting through, like, the left side or the right side? Like, that patient might as well be dead.
You can't, as a creator, you cannot sacrifice what you are producing for the needs of the audience. When you create something, it's almost meant to be a gift to the world. I created this to share with you, not I created this because you demanded it. I'm not at their beck and call.
I think the world is really bad at patience right now.
Very bad.
And I pride myself on being very patient with 99% of things.
She's really patient. It's a beautiful trait.
Like, for most of the time, I'm very patient with people. If you ask me to do something with a computer, I will throw the computer before I'm patient with it. But we have such high, like, I want to see this and I want to see this now. I want to read this. I want to read this now. I want to listen to new music now.
You sound like a toddler.
That's because we are throwing giant temper tantrums.
Like toddlers.
And
it's so funny because, like, me and my boyfriend now have the house to ourselves, basically. And we have been going through, like, essentially this whole week going through this process. And with my diagnosis, we're now realizing I probably should have been on stimulants the entire time because I'm throwing temper tantrums left and right because my family taught me certain patterns that only worked for them. And so I am going about cleaning the house the only way my family has taught me. I'm going about situations the only way I've ever been taught. And it frustrates the living hell out of me. And so I'm just sitting there having my own temper tantrum because I can't figure it out on my own and I don't want Justin's help. But then he's sitting there and he's just like, well, I'm just going to sit here and watch you have the temper tantrum because I can't do anything. And it's clear you need to figure it out on your own. So, like, we're playing, it's so funny because we will call out, like, it's not actual fighting, but like, we'll call out specific Bluey episodes. And he's like, it's this episode of Bluey right now. And I'm like, shut up, I know.
Oh, Sean and I did the same thing.
Like, I am bingo 24/7 in the household.
Bingo's the best.
I just want to throw an unpopular opinion in the ring. I think that we don't outgrow temper tantrums. We just have them in different ways as adults. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing as long as no one else is involved with it. Okay. I get really frustrated about one specific chore. And it was because when I was pregnant, I couldn't touch it. Literally, my doctor was like, you could not touch the litter box. And I was like, fine. So I'd get really, really upset at Sean for not touching the litter box when I wanted him to. Because we have two definitions of clean. And so I had to learn that if I was really frustrated about it, I had to go somewhere else and do something else productive. So that way when Sean eventually came home, I'd be like, I did this for you so you could do this for me.
And this is what me and Justin are coming to 24/7 in the house. And man, I feel so horrible for this man right now because I am throwing my own temper tantrums left and right. And he still has like barely had any temper tantrums.
One of the best things I ever read or heard was from a meme, but it was honestly life-changing to hear about it this way. Because I think I was about 23 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because we'll hear all the time, like, your X age, you should know better, you should be doing this appropriately, you're an adult, blah, 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 blah. I maybe, at the time when I was 23, this post would have basically gone, I may be 23, but as an adult, I'm only 5 years old. because we're not considered adults until we're 18. And when I read that, it honestly completely flipped my brain because all of a sudden everything felt easier.
Yes.
I was able to give myself more grace for understanding. I'm a 5-year-old adult. Like, as a kid, I'm solid. I've had years of experience as a kid. I'm not even at 10 years as an adult yet. I'm still in elementary school. I'm good.
I will say I love that though, because like, gosh, this is a thought I have with myself every day, and it's just, man, my internal voice inside my head has not changed since I was a kid. Like, I still have the stupid spider pig
Yes.
does whatever a spider pig does. Can you swing from a web? No, he can't, 'cause he's a spider pig. Watch out, he is a spider pig. Anyways, but like, it's things like that where like, squirrel, that just continuously play through my head 24/7, left and right, and I am just navigating my day between squirrel, spider pig, and like all of these million things, and I'm just like, wow. And then like going through recent ADHD diagnosis, like my therapist has been asking me like what things I did as a kid. And it's so funny because me and Justin will also talk about it. But in my therapist office, I'm like, I don't know. I used to just like tap my 3 fingers, and then like while I was tapping them, it sounded like and I just kept doing that the entire time during lecture because I would like then pretend that I was having a horse race between my 3 fingers that I was tapping.
Listen, I've never felt more akin to you right now.
Am I allowed to feel like I relate? Because I feel called out too.
Yeah. Sean, you might be an ADHDer.
I've been over this a long time ago. But no, I have not been officially diagnosed.
We need to stop the podcast because it's early morning tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Well, friends, you got a special episode from us today. Welcome to the brain barf of the friends.
I'll say it. If we weren't called Friends of Disney, it'd probably be ADH Disney.
Okay, bye, friends.
Bye.
Bye.